it is time once again for another Chicago Bears post-game show right here on the Kanika Sports Channel. And yes, indeed, for the first time in many moons, this is not a victory edition of the Chicago Bears post-game show. And after 1 week of doing the good, better, best post-game show, we are going right back to the good, bad, and the ugly. And I just dropped the whole Chicago voice mid-sentence, but that's just what happens sometimes. I am your host in my regular voice, Kenny, and I am joined on this post-game show by my lovely co-host, Nika. Thank you for joining me once again to memorialize this defeat against our vaunted rivals, the Green Bay Packers, at Lambeau Field yesterday, NFL Week 14. We are going to be breaking down this loss to the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field and talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly from this game. But first, if this is your first time here, please do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell for our mascot, Frexy, a.k.a. Freckles. She's just chilling in the sun outside in the desert. It's a little chilly out there in the desert, but that doesn't seem to bother her as much as it bothers me in the morning these days. Anyways, all right, well, let's get into this post-game show, shall we? We are reviewing a painful road loss here at Green Bay with some perspective. The Green Bay Packers 28-21 at Lambeau Field yesterday, and in doing so, the Bears fall from first place in the NFC all the way to 7th. And I just want to put this into a little bit of perspective because whenever we were playing the Packers for first place yesterday in the division, and we were the first place in the conference going into it. So just by losing and having Green Bay's vaunted, into those top 4 spots automatically, and because we're no longer a division leader, we automatically go into spots 5, 6, or 7 if we're even still a playoff contender. If the Buccaneers, for example, lose their first place to the Panthers before the season's over, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs because they both have 6 losses already. They have more losses than the Lions, who are fighting, and boy, the Lions are going to be licking their chops going down the stretch trying to get in because, that final game of the season for the Bears is hosting the Lions, and a spot to the playoffs could be on the line in that game. It would not surprise me in the least. You want to talk about stakes? You think they're high yesterday? Imagine that game.
All hands on deck. I guess.
We will we will get there when we get there, folks, because we got a long way to go before we get to that Lions game. A few things stand out in this game when you put it into perspective. Like, we were going to drop into the 5, 6, or 7 if we got out of the division lead. Mm-hmm. So stop acting like we went from 1st to 7th overnight and the sky is falling for it. So that's point number 1. And then, point number 2 is we battled our asses off to make this a game. We tied the game with 8 minutes left in the 4th quarter in a hostile environment in a game we were down 14-3 at halftime in. So hold your hat on that, I guess, is my perspective today, because at halftime, I thought we were not even going to sniff the end zone potentially in this game and have a lot of explaining to do on this show. And I'm glad we're having a different conversation.
Definitely.
Caleb Williams. Yes, the first half was ugly. We're going to talk about it, but he made some unbelievable throws in the second half. The Cole Kmet sideline pass where he scrambled out of the pocket and launched it down on the sideline, beautiful spot on the dime. The Zacchaeus touchdown pass. He made some excellent passes on even the final drive before he unfortunately tossed that game-losing interception. But hold your hat on that. He made some amazing plays in the second half. It's there. He's in year number 2 going up against Jordan Love, who's in year number 5. We need perspective here.
That's a very good point. And people overlook this because of the instant gratification culture.
Of course. If you're not doing it for me now, are you ever going to do it for me is the question. Instead of we're going to talk about this more at the end. But one of my keys to victory is that we needed to win the psychological battle early on in this game in order to stand a chance of winning. And, we came so very, very close, Nika. People forget already, I think, that Jordan Love threw a horrible interception in the first quarter of this game, first possession for the Packers. And the Bears' failure to capitalize, even just a field goal on that turnover, that was right there was when they needed to win this psychological battle. So, again, close, but no cigar. So,
that's where the experience comes in.
It is, yes. And Green Bay, by the way, has a very, very potent offense. We talked about this going into the game. Like, they don't have as high of a time of possession as the Bears, but oh boy, do they just chop you up and go downfield like nothing, like butter. Nevertheless, I wanted to revisit the Vegas sports books before this game because they had a 7-point spread and it was a 7-point victory for the Packers, right on the money, and that means a push. That means no one wins or loses money.
Oh, okay.
That's why when there's a half, it's always fascinating when it's a whole number. I thought it always was halves, but apparently it is sometimes whole numbers when they really expect it to be like they were on the money with this one. They were.
No kidding.
Anyways, so I thought that was really interesting. And the over, it went way over. It went, 4.5 points over, which I think is pretty much easy to say way over.
Yes,
it didn't go by a half over or 1.5 over. It went by 4.5 over. So more offense was there than I think was predicted. The weather was very cold, no doubt about it. But it wasn't like it was in Philly. Overall, I walked away from this game very impressed, actually, with the Bears. Going to Philly, going to Green Bay, and coming out ahead, like I said, in the points scored versus points allowed, and having a 1-1 record is not the worst possible outcome here.
No, and there was this first time meeting of those two teams this season. So they all were prepared and amped up for the game.
And Nika brings up a great point here, which is that there is another showdown to go here. That Green Bay did win the battle yesterday, but the war is far from over, my friends.
It's undecided.
It's far from over, my friends. See, I guys snuck a little Chicago back in there. All right, well, you brought it up. I'm going to go there. Let's get to the good in this game, Nika. And that is that the Bears belong here. That's what they showed me yesterday. The Bears showed in the second half that they belong here. They actually won the second half yesterday, 18-14 against the Packers, if you look at the box score here.
They did.
So
it's like they played two different games.
Absolutely. And they actually won the time of possession battle for this whole game. Like, it was one of my keys to victory. They dominated the Packers. 33.5 minutes to 26.5 minutes. They had the ball almost 7 minutes longer than the Packers had the ball on offense in this game. But like we mentioned, the Packers just lethally potent. They don't need as much time to move the ball and put some points on the board. And they have that big play capability that has sort of eluded the Bears. They haven't had a lot of like 40, 50-yard touchdowns. They had that flea flicker early in the season. Haven't seen a lot of deep ball actually connections, and I'd really love for them to be able to add that eventually. And we all know Caleb's got the arm strength to do it. So
he does, and he does so well while running too, which is amazing to see.
Oh yeah, I think Caleb's biggest problem when he's passing in the pocket right now is that he's thinking too much and he's trying to process everything that Ben Johnson's teaching him, and
he's not doing
it.
It's
a growth season for him, and we're seeing it in real time, and it's hard for people to process that because they're like, how can he look so good on some throws and so bad on some others? It's because of that. It's because when he's thinking out there, it's not going well, and then that's when he loses like his mechanics and his arm accuracy goes as a result of it. So it's year 2, folks. Jordan Love, year 5. A little bit more polished product, I think, is what we're seeing out there. So it's unfortunate because you're in this position now and you can't control that it's Jordan Love's 5th year and Caleb's his 2nd year. And you have to treat each season as its own individual life, if you will. Like, you're starting the video game over in preseason and you're playing it until you die.
Sure. And that showed yesterday on the field when the team and Caleb were over anxious.
They were at the beginning of the game. I think that explains a lot. We're going to get into that. I promise you guys. The Bears are better than people thought they'd be at this point in the season, too. And after an awful first half offense, they showed real adjustments, and they made a huge game of it on the road against their division rivals in Week 14. This is all you can really ask for in this season as a fan. Like, I don't think we expected to be 9-4 right now. So the fact that we are, I wish there was some different reactions out there. The Caleb Williams versus Jordan Love comparison is not going to go away anytime soon. They're both going to be here
For a minute,
playing against each other, hopefully in meaningful games for the next few years and bringing true life back into this rivalry. We've never had a quarterback to go up against their quarterback.
No.
And maybe finally, once and for all, we do. We just have to let him get a little bit more experience, unfortunately. Love is definitely a more polished product right now, and that's okay. I think Caleb has shown that he has the potential.
The Packers are a lot more consistent with their coaching staff, with their quarterback. They have that under their belt. The Bears do not.
Absolutely. So those are some of the good things the Bears did yesterday on offense, despite a bad first half on offense, which we're going to talk about, I promise. I wanted to mention the Bears did a good job of frustrating Micah Parsons. Another key to victory that we talked about that unfortunately, even though they executed this part of it, they did not get the W. Now I want to say Micah Parsons actually just had one assisted tackle in this game. He didn't have a solo tackle. He did not have a sack.
No, he had a comic book cover.
Yeah. Dallas Cowboy fanboy, I should say, Skip Bayless. I saw he has hilarious react. You know, he defends the Cowboys so hard.
Yes,
and
he does.
Yet he's using this game as proof of that Micah Parsons was worth getting rid of because he didn't show up yesterday, according to him.
Oh, the Bears had nothing to do with it.
Well, they had something to do with it. Matt LaFleur, by contrast, the Green Bay head coach, he thinks it was the refs not calling holding on the Bears' offensive linemen. And you know, there's going to be some talk about this, I think, throughout the fallout from this game, and then it might get forgotten. And I don't want to forget about this because I feel like Matt LaFleur yesterday, after the game, he was so mad about the holding calls that weren't getting called on Micah Parsons during the game. You could see him yelling at the refs, and he was, of course, asked about it after the game, and he said, quote, "I don't know what holding is anymore if the Bears didn't hold Micah Parsons." That's what he had to say about this yesterday. Now, do you think he is playing psychological warfare and setting up the Bears for failure in the next game? Do you think there will be more holding calls called against the Bears on Micah Parsons in the next game at Soldier Field? Yes or no?
Yes. It's a setup, sure.
I feel like this is a setup on his part to do that. And I just, man, what a snake oil salesman, man. I just don't know what it is about this guy, but he just bothers me.
That's because you're the Bears fan.
Maybe, but I mean, is it, if I was a Packers fan, would I be saying, oh, what a slick salesman he's being right now by like setting up the Bears to fail? It angers me
50-50.
a little bit because I feel like Ben Johnson is the kind of head coach who wears his heart on his sleeve a little bit. And, you know, you see that in his post-game speeches. And
I give you one comparison. Dave Roberts comes to mind.
yeah, it does. Matt LaFleur reminds me of Dave Roberts. And I don't know if I always respected everything Dave Roberts has done, even though I can admit that he's a successful manager, obviously, in baseball. But I don't necessarily know if that means I've always respected him. But there's two sides to every story. I'm not here to get into Dave Roberts now.
No.
But Matt LaFleur does give off Dave Roberts vibes.
Sure.
Pretentious, we're better than you, a little bit of that. And I think that's where this was coming from, this comment a little bit. It's like, how could the great Micah Parsons not be an impact on this game? You know, I just don't believe it with my own eyes. It'll be interesting if he's asked about this again because, you know, coaches can get fined for what they say about the refs by the NFL.
Okay.
And, you know, once he has a chance to watch the tape, it'll be interesting to hear if he changes his tune or not.
Or doubles down.
Or if he doubles down. Exactly. I'll be honest. I thought there was a couple holding calls on the Bears that they got away with yesterday. And I also think they got away with not giving up an interception early in this game when I think it was Colston Loveland caught the ball, but it appeared to go into the Packers defender's arms without ever touching the ground in the replay. And yet somehow after they reviewed it, it remained Bears ball. I was actually surprised, but well, kudos to the Bears for at least putting the clamps down on Micah Parsons yesterday. They made him almost a non-factor in the game, the Hulk.
The Hulk.
I know he was a factor because the Bears were probably double teaming him, but at least they they didn't let him impact the game on the stat sheet. Speaking of the referees, the men in pinstripes, the Bears did a good job in penalties in this game, Nika.
Yes,
Only
they did.
4 penalties all game long. Those penalties are down again, like we've said. That's what makes me nervous about these comments, but the Bears just give up 17 yards on 4 penalties yesterday. Pretty big for them to do that. Now, one of those was a red zone, neutral zone infraction, and the ball was only moved like 1.5 yards or something on it. But nevertheless, we won the penalty battle on the road yesterday.
How many penalties did the Green Bay get?
Green Bay had 6 penalties for 55 yards, including a big personal foul at one point in the game. So
it matters.
It does matter. Good job by the Bears. And I guess I just want to conclude the good part of our breakdown here by saying that this was a good, clean game of football. Hard hitting in the cold weather. Can't really ask for much more. The Bears had a chance to tie this game on the final possession of the game. And they unfortunately, Caleb threw an interception. He underthrew a ball. He had Cole Kmet for a second. He threw it probably a half a second too late. I hope by year 5 in the Jordan Love regime, when we're in the same situation, he makes that pass, Yeah. Hopefully that's what you want. I know the instant gratification wants the win today, but we want Caleb to be as slick and polished as the Green Bay offense looked yesterday in year 5.
Of
right?
course. Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's move on to the bad, because the offense was bad in the first half, especially, and the defense was also pretty bad at giving up big plays all game long. It's not just Caleb Williams' fault that the Bears didn't tie this game at the end of it. They might not have needed to be in that situation to begin with, had a couple of other plays been made. But we'll start with Caleb. He had a rough start, no doubt about it, going 0 for 5 on the first 2 drives of this game. And you can see here, it's just how the game started. 3 plays, 5 yards, 1 minute and 18 seconds. In fact, I think that says -5 yards because of our penalties.
Over anxious team when they get to the Green Bay.
And no time of possession right out of the get-go. And then second possession, 23 seconds, -5 yards again on 3 plays, and a punt. And this was after the Bears had intercepted Jordan Love on the road in their house. Definitely a key moment in the game for me that we didn't take advantage of that. And it might have been a totally different game. But here we are, 3 and out, 3 incompletes, and a penalty. This was the Colston Loveland incomplete, by the way, on play number 1. But then we punt it down to their 10-yard line or whatever, and they go down and score. Yeah. That's what they do. And they did it in such ease. 11 plays, 80 yards, 5 minutes and 50 seconds, 7-0. And it should have been at least 3-0 Bears when you take over with the ball on their side of the field after an interception. So that was bad.
Yes.
And you cannot ignore that. And again, that 0 for 5 start from Caleb. Oof.
Rough.
It is rough, yeah. And you just think he was probably a little bit hyped. Also, Roma Dunze.
Missing.
Roma Dunze, number 1 receiver, was out. So I could probably make an argument that there was maybe some timing issues early on in the game with routes being run by the new number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
And then DJ Moore, he's had such an up and down season. He had those 2 touchdowns against the Steelers, if you'll remember. Absent yesterday, 1 catch, -4 yards.
Yeah.
So he was tackled in the backfield on his 1 reception. Terrible. Probably not his fault, by the way, that it was in the backfield. Probably the blocking scheme that happened. But nevertheless, hopefully Roma Dunze is healthy in the next game, because Green Bay will then have not seen him yet this year.
That's right, yeah.
The defense, meanwhile, they just gave up way too many big plays in this game. That was their real Achilles heel. I didn't expect Green Bay to get shut out at home or anything. You would have to be a fool to think that. But the big plays, that's gut-wrenching. Those swing the momentum really
quickly,
in big ways, really quickly. And we saw their potency. They strike quick. They remind me of like a baseball team with a high slugging percentage. And I think that's why everyone loves the Packers, is because they slug big in the NFL, in my opinion. Anyways, every time the Bears scored a touchdown in this game, the Packers responded with a touchdown of their own. And I have to point a little bit of criticism at the defense for not just putting up the wall one time and giving us that momentum chance. You know, it was like, oh, they took it right back. Oh, they took it right back, and they forced us to. That last drive could have been a game-winning drive.
It could have been.
And we only could have needed a field goal, which we were in the position to already kick.
Again, it was more over anxious players and misreading so many Green Bay plays.
You can see it right here in the third quarter. Bears score to make it a 14-11 game. They convert the 2-point conversion thanks to an offensive line push of Kyle Monungai literally into the end zone. And then the defense gives it up. 4 plays, 63 yards, 2 minutes and 10 seconds for the Packers. It's like, boom, it's a 10-point game again. Then the Bears get a field goal. Green Bay punts. That was the chance. We came back. We tie the game, 21-21. What does Green Bay do? Boom, they score again, 28-21. I mean, and they had the ball for 4.5 minutes that time, 8 plays, 65 yards, but it was still a couple of big plays down at the end of that drive that made it happen. The Packers were amazing on third down yesterday. Got to give them their hats off. And the Bears just don't get enough pressure. It's the one thing that I think I'm ready to declare, even though I don't like to talk about the offseason until the offseason is official. Some of you out there are really, really bad about, like, well, we're going to talk about this in a minute, but one thing I think I am ready to declare is that the Bears need to address the defensive line in the draft next year early. You know, the Bears aren't going to be drafting at the end of the first round, most likely. I mean, they would have to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Do we really think that that's going to happen? I'm still keeping my expectations tempered. And I still think the Bears are a good football team. They proved it yesterday by coming back against the Packers on the road and making it a 21-21 game with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter or whatever it was. It's just a shame, I guess, of how it all ended. That's all. I want to talk about that last drive, because there was some criticism pointed that maybe the Bears were not good with their clock management at the end of this drive, and that, they let too much time go off the clock too quickly. And then they found themselves in this 4th and 1 with 26 seconds left or whatever it was. And they couldn't run the ball because then the clock was going to keep running and they wouldn't have enough time to get up to the line and spike it or do whatever. And I don't buy that. I don't buy that for a minute. And I think one of the reasons why Ben Johnson was not afraid to let the clock just tick down as much as possible was because the Packers score quickly. And if you automatically leave them even 20 seconds, they could get in field goal range. They really could have. I think that was his whole thought process here. And so I don't blame him for this. I think they should have even ran it one more time on 4th and 1 and hopefully gotten that first down and then even called a timeout or spiked the ball. I think that should have been the play. Then you give yourselves, 2 timeouts, 3 downs to get to the end zone, or you give yourself, 1 timeout and 3 or 4 attempts at the end zone, depending on
where you're at.
But you can't allow the ball to really be caught in bounds, or you have to hurry up and spike it. So, but I was really impressed with all the chaos going on here down the stretch. The Bears didn't commit any penalties, and they looked really solid battling back here. And unfortunately, that final throw came up a little bit short. That's it. But be excited about the fact that the Bears played solid procedural football in these clutch moments. I do think they should have run on 4th and 1. Like I said, use that second timeout, take your shots at the end zone. But let's move on to the ugly, shall we, Nika?
Yes.
Was this a winnable football game for the Bears? Yes, it was. Is the sky falling because the Bears lost this game? No. I don't personally feel like it is, and yet there is just so much animosity right now for this interception at the end of the game. I guess people having different expectations than I do or something when it comes to if Caleb Williams is going to be a good player or not. We are once again experiencing the weekly judgment day of his whole career is on the line in this one game if he's going to be a good player. It's not.
On the final throw, too.
It's not, okay? Yes, his first couple of drives in this game were really bad, but he also rebounded very well up until the very last throw. He had 186 yards and 2 touchdown passes in this game after having 43 yards in the first half or something stupid like that. It was not pretty. I get it. You could even call it ugly, but I'm choosing to keep it in the bad category right now because he did turn it around. And if he would have stayed bad the rest of the game and
Then
not led this comeback, then it probably would have fallen into the ugly camp for me. But he did lead us back into contention in this game, 21-21. He threw 2 touchdown passes. It wasn't the running game that got us necessarily back into this one. So Caleb finishes 19 of 35, 186 yards, a couple of touchdowns. He started 0 for 5, so you could even say like he was 19 of 30 after starting 0 for 5, which is a higher than 60% completion percentage, by the way. In fact, it's really close to 65.
No, improvement then.
From after the first 2 drives.
Sure.
I'm just pointing it out, you know. And I don't know how much missing Roma Dunze did hurt him. But either way, like him or hate him, Nika, we are stuck with Caleb Williams right now for the remainder of this season and the next 2 seasons. So if you're an idiot online championing Tyson Bagent, or if you're mentioning how Justin Fields would have won this game yesterday, I saw how he played in Green Bay, by the way, when it was his last game in a Bears uniform, and he was auditioning for his job, and he didn't play as good as Caleb Williams played in the second half of this game yesterday, despite that interception. So did you see all the throws he made on the run yesterday, by the way, too, to Cole Kmet and to Zacchaeus? And
we just got to stop living in the past.
I agree. This
Move
is
on,
so dumb. If you're gonna criticize the decision about moving on from Justin Fields, then you need new eyes. Because I saw the last game he played in Green Bay, and he didn't win his job that day. End of story. It had nothing to do with the Bears winning or losing that game. It had to do with how he played in that game. When he knew ahead of time that if he were to remain in Chicago or not, probably depended on how he played in that game. He had been injured during that year, by the way, too. He hadn't played the full season. Caleb, knock on wood, he hasn't missed a damn game yet. And he goes out there and takes it good, bad, and ugly, you know?
What happened with Justin Field when he got moved to another team? He's got
exactly.
benched. So you
2 other teams.
Oh, 2 other teams, exactly. So.
All right. Well, stop trying to fire our kicker just because he made one mistake in the game yesterday. Yes, he made a mistake. It happens, you know.
Sure.
We gave Green Bay great field position. Our defense didn't step up and pick him up. You can make that argument too. They could have done it just one time for us yesterday. We scored 2 touchdowns and our kicker made a mistake, and yet all 3 times they didn't step up and make a play.
Oh boy, overreaction Mondays always are fun.
And I want to get back to the offseason talk because, you know, DJ Moore has a bad game yesterday, maybe 1 catch, -4 yards. It doesn't look pretty in the box score, right? And everyone's like, we got to trade him in the offseason, save the cap space. And, you know, he and Caleb obviously don't have a rapport. Like, they just had 2 touchdown passes in the same game against Pittsburgh. Do we not remember this? People try too hard sometimes, you know? It's part of life. And just because things don't look pretty out there doesn't mean people aren't trying. You have to keep that in mind, and doesn't mean they're not capable either. We'll get to the off season, okay, everybody? We'll talk about how to fix whatever's wrong with this football team then. But can we please just enjoy what is a pretty damn good football team this year? 9-4, no one had it. Be honest, you barely had them finishing 9-8, and they still might. But you know what? They already got to your expectations then, didn't they? So this is all supposed to be quote unquote gravy. And, you know, I've heard some people, especially even in the Chicago media, I think it's Mark Grote, if you want to be specific. Yeah, I'm going after you, Mark Grote. I know that Shaquille O'Neal joke, by the way. So Mark Grote, you need to enjoy your gravy. I heard him say, like, this is no longer a this is gravy situation. Yes, it is. The expectations shouldn't change just because the Bears are outdoing your own expectations before the season. Yet that's how you want to like phrase the argument now like, oh, well, we have to win and take advantage of this opportunity. And while, yes, you should do everything in your power to try and take advantage of this opportunity as much as possible, up to and including winning the Super Bowl.
Sure.
I just don't see it as a realistic thing going into this season, nor do I see it right now. You have no pass rush.
Of course.
You know, and you have a quarterback in year 2 learning a new system in year 2.
And doing it well.
And
based on the record.
I would say there's room for growth and improvement, but he's doing it competitively. The one thing I will say about Caleb Williams is whether you like him or not, don't think he's a quitter. he doesn't strike me as a quitter. He could go out there and go 0 for 60 next week, and he would still get up and get dressed and go back to the next game with a smile on his face at the start of it.
He believes in himself.
And he does. And I think that's why there might be an inherent desire by some to tear him down. Anyways, I'm really surprised that there's not more real enjoyment for where the Bears are at this year.
Leave it to social media and the Chicago media.
Yeah, it's really bizarre to me. So I want to leave you with some final thoughts. As much as I don't like losing to Green Bay, I do feel like this loss isn't the worst thing that actually could have happened to this team. We had some positive takeaways from this game. We were the first team to go into Green Bay and score more than 20 points in a game this year. We were the first team to go into Green Bay and put up more than 300 yards of offense in a game this year.
Wow,
they had
good.
not allowed a 300-yard opponent at their home stadium this year. So the Bears checked both of those boxes off yesterday, despite the fact that they put up, -5 yards in both of their first 2 drives.
That's okay.
They turned it around and still did things that no other team has done at Lambeau Field this year. It's a tough place to play. Mm-hmm. So with that out of the way, had we mounted a comeback win yesterday, it could have put us in a position to potentially have a letdown against Cleveland next week, because you have nowhere else to go but down after coming back from that 14-3 halftime deficit yesterday. And although we were very close, it might leave a taste of hunger in enough players' mouths to refocus up, not let the Browns come in and shock you, and let Shedeur Sanders, who everyone had as a 5th-round draft pick apparently because no one took him until then, come in and shred you up.
Yeah.
So you can't take anybody lightly in this league. You just cannot do it. We got to take care of business this upcoming Sunday. We cannot look past this Browns game. Focus up, take care of business, beat this team, move to 10-4. By the way, Green Bay has to go and play at Denver, which is on a 10-game winning streak. If there's a team that's destined to lose a game, Nika would say it's a team on a 10-game winning streak, but not going to be an easy game for the Packers still, right? They have to go on the road into the Mile High and breathe that thin air in. Drink your water, everybody. But aside from that, then Green Bay comes back here. So take care of business. Worry about what you can control right now, and then start to taste vengeance in your mouth for when that Green Bay game happens. Because yes, we fell from 1st to 7th in the conference yesterday, but you know what? We can do the same thing right back to them, and won't that taste even sweeter, everybody? So focus up. We got work to do. This is not the sky is falling Monday, even though it's not a victory Monday.
It's a great advice.
Well, thank you very much. I hope some people out there tune in and get this advice from Kenny. He's got some good thoughts on this Bears team and instant gratification culture in general. Thank you, my friends. We will be back here with a Bears pregame show to preview this matchup against Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns at Soldier Field this upcoming Sunday, December 14th, everybody, as we count down the days till Christmas, till New Year's, and the end of this 2025 season of NFL football.